Things appear to be changing in Britain because on the side of the government, in the Tory party, in the front benches in Parliament, you have the most diverse set of people ever seen in Westminster. Diverse in terms of gender, diverse in terms of race and national origin. On the other side, on the supposedly left-wing side, you have in the Labour Party a whole set of white men. So it looks very, very strange. How is it to be explained? How can we explain this strange phenomenon where the right wing actually seems to have latched onto diversity language, or at least the reality of diversity, far more than the left, which simply uses the language? What I think is really fascinating is that we tend to think about the entry of non-white people into British politics in American terms, when of course Britain is not America. There is no direct history of slavery in this country and its political system, and therefore the coming to power of someone like Obama in the United States, that resonance does not apply in the United Kingdom. So when Rishi Sunak was elevated, he has not yet been elected, to Prime Minister, there was an attempt to make this into a kind of Obama-like spectacle, but it didn't succeed because no one really is that interested. They're not interested because it's not the same kind of political issue. It's not the same kind of racial issue. And for this, there are several reasons. One, of course, is the fact that there are only two racially marked groups in the world or globally, blacks and whites. These people, these groups which can self-define racially. No other groups self-define racially or are even defined racially in an explicit way. So no one calls Asians, as they're known in this country, or South Asians as they're known in the United States, browns or anything like that. There is no racial descriptor for them. So that's one thing, that Indians, people of Indian, Asian origin, don't really partake of the binary logic of race, which is defined by black and white. The other thing, of course, is that Rishi Sunak's elevation and that of many other people of South Asian descent in the British cabinet, a number of whom, like him, come from East Africa, not directly from South Asia, is that they don't represent, as it were, the other or the outside. They represent the glory days of Britain in its imperial incarnation. They are the empire today in so many ways. Now, it's not accidental, I think, that Asians from East Africa tended to be loyal to Britain, which is one reason why they came to Britain in the first place after decolonization. In Africa, in some cases, they were forced to leave their countries. In other cases, they came, as with Rishi Sunak's parents, just around the time of decolonization or just even before then. So what they represent in Britain is not, as I said, race as such, because they don't fit in that binary. Nor do they represent the foreign and the outside. They represent the empire and the Commonwealth. And I think this is really important in our own day, post-Brexit. This is really a post-Brexit phenomenon. Because with Brexit, of course, you have the separation of Britain from Europe, and you have it searching for a new role in the world. And as we know from the Brexit debates, at the time this was seen as pure rhetoric, with people like Boris Johnson saying, well, Britain is going to reattach itself to the Commonwealth, i.e. the old empire, and that is going to be its new global context. It's no longer Europe. America, of course, is always there, but it needs its own place in the world and not simply a place as it were America's lapdog. So the empire has come back in this interesting way, not, if you will, as a white nationalist project. So one reason why people in Britain, I think, today are so interested in colonialism, often to defend it, is not because they want to make a case for the superiority of the British or white people or whatever, but precisely in order to, as it were, cleanse it of its hierarchical and violent history in order to accept, in their own way, a multicultural Britain. One that includes people like Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman and Priti Patel and others. And so I think the diversity issue as far as race is concerned in Britain is really linked to Brexit in this way, and the attempt to make Britain into a global player by reattaching it to its glorious past. And therefore, as long as these people are perfectly ideologically pure to whatever counts as Tory ideology, there is no problem with them at all. They don't represent moderate or liberal-ish or even left versions of the party. They represent the extreme right. Rishi Sunak is the most moderate of the lot. The rest of them, in a way, have to account for their own racial difference, let's say, or the difference in their national origin, by being even stronger on patriotism and hard-edged nationalism than white people could be, which is of course why you had Priti Patel as Home Secretary, followed by Suella Braverman, both East African Asians, both wedded to Priti Patel's wonderful in her mind idea of taking refugees and sending them against their will to Rwanda, and having them processed there and giving them new lives there, paid for by the British government. Quite apart from the fact that Rwanda is hardly a model of human rights and democracy, I find what is interesting about this plan, it's cruel, but of course what it also does is send people who are not from Africa back to the place that Priti Patel and Suella Braverman themselves came from. So there's a kind of bizarre exchange of identities going on here. And it is almost as if these women and men from East Africa or other parts of Africa or Asia have to prove themselves to be even more Tory than the whitest of white Tories in order to secure and continue to hold their place in the party and government.